and then you get the benefit of 0 days on market as a new listing. When you go from exempt to non-exempt.
Yeah, which makes sense.
But that's not, it's not enforceable unless my board has somebody that's going through and checking everything that goes active to see if it's on their.
Right.
Literally, I think it's a spreadsheet of exempt listings that they get those forms, because it doesn't go into their system.
If the office exclusive, if my board chooses to allow the office exclusive, I think it won't be a spreadsheet. This is gonna be similar.
Okay.
They will actually still use the VLC.
Okay.
That you would have to enter an office exclusive listing into the VLC,
Oh, okay.
but only your office could see it.
Oh, interesting.
But then they would know of it, they would know the dates. And so if at some point in time you transitioned it, this is no longer an office exclusive, I want it public, it would count those days.
It would count those days.
But it would
Yeah.
still have to be a fresh listing system. It'd still have to get put, right?
Change the status.
It would be,
Yeah.
See it, but you're seeing it.
It would almost be like changing one from
It would be a fresh push.
active to pending or pending to active, yeah. Somebody is, Spencer.
Yeah, happy to be corrected if I got this wrong, but I thought at the my board meeting, they said that NAR is going to make this policy go into effect in January. It's up to the local boards, they have until May to enforce, but I thought my board said we're gonna enforce it in January because we have the infrastructure to do that basically.
That may have been said, yeah, I actually had to leave that meeting a little bit early. What I've seen from my board is May 1st. Yeah, but that might be right. We will know that soon, I think. Yeah. Yeah, Cameron.
Took a picture of the other day.
Personal property that you own, other members of the
Yeah, so Cameron's asking about what if you're only a part of the property. So don't hear me encouraging you to break the rule. If a property, say for example, is owned in an LLC that you happen to be a part of, I think the literal application of this rule is that you can't market that property without putting it in the MLS.
So you push, somebody else can push the button.
Huh?
Like if you have pool of partners, does the other partner get to push the button?
No, I'm saying the actual application of the rule is that you can't take the realtor hat off, and it doesn't matter if you own 1% or 100%, you're obligated to put it in the MLS.
No one.
My point is that on enforcement, if it wasn't you sharing the house on social media, would it be difficult for our board to say, Cameron, like, it was your partner, and we looked up the LLC, and you own a part of that house, do I envision that happening? That's kind of hard to imagine. But I think the application would be that if you own the property or any other property, you can't take the realtor hat off. Yeah, that is kind of interesting. I think they're gonna struggle to enforce this, like, in even the most blatant of cases. But they're not gonna have to enforce it 100% of the time. If they find people enough, the industry will just adjust. Somebody else had, I feel like I skipped past it. Now,
Is there a chance that we might be getting a private listing section of the VLC like they have in Chicago?
yeah, that, a part of the confusion of this event last Friday, the guy from Chicago was talking about one way, so their board, the Chicago area's board, enacted a rule like this, I can't remember when he said. This has been the case in their board for a while. They just did it locally. One of the ways that they've done it is they actually have created like 3 different types of status for a property, including a private listing network. It's not office exclusive, but it's not public facing either. It's to create that channel between realtor and board. I have this, it's private, I'm gonna notify you when it a couple staff people at my board that want for that to happen. Cause I think it would create, it's like a way to take this out of the dark, kind of. It would give an agent an opportunity to communicate to the my board staff a bit more openly. I don't know what happened. Up until now, I've been on the BLC policy committee. I'm due to roll off or reapply at the end of this year. I have reapplied. I didn't really care about being on the committee until this happened.
Did you get rejected?
Huh?
Did you get rejected?
No, I don't know yet. I probably will.
Affiliation with me, Mike.
I probably will. Yeah, right.
Don't do your things. Don't advertise anywhere unless you're putting it.
Yes, unless the office exclusive rule is allowed.
But I don't think we do that often.
I think we would do it more often here. So one result of this, if this happens and in our board, the office exclusive listing is allowed. If that's what my board decides to do, and they don't do something with the BLC to create like a sub office network, we'll have to do that on our own. I think we owe it to our clients that if you're allowed to market a property to your office, you have to create a tool to be able to do that effectively. If the BLC isn't gonna provide that tool, then we would have to do it. And I think a lot of companies are gonna start doing it. More efficient than, I mean, emails, Facebook posts, like they can work, but if we're talking about like, oh, the moment I know I'm going to have a listing in 30 days, if I wanna start communicating about that listing, the only people I can communicate with are my peers in my office. I think all of a sudden the importance of that being efficient goes up. So, we'll see. I know it's kind of boring, but.
When do we expect clarification?
This is why I don't think my board is going to enforce it in January. It's the goal of the BLC policy committee. BLC policy committee, by the way, makes no decisions on this. They only just make a recommendation to the board. So my board staff and any committees, they don't make decisions. It's the board of directors that votes on this. I don't think they're voting on this until February. So I would be surprised if they were enforcing this in January or February. That's why I think the May. So they're gonna field recommendations from probably all of their committees. And I think vote in February on what's our, this, it's fascinating because there are markets in the country where half of the residential real estate transactions aren't being done by realtors. New York City. Half of the residential brokers in New York City are not members of the board of realtors. They have their own database and their own board. And this policy will probably crush the board of realtors in New York City. Because if you had the choice, well, okay, I'd rather have control of what to do with my listing between me and my seller. So if there's this other, I'll go and do that. In Indiana, that's harder to imagine because like that entity doesn't really exist. You would lose your ability to market the property. So I think in places like that, this is a really big deal. Okay,
Mark,
last chance.
auto works.
Yes, thank you.
Last dumb question. Did you say that as an owner of a property, if we want to list it, we have to sign a listing contract with ourselves? Are you being serious?
No, I'm saying, I don't think you can take the realtor hat off
Okay.
and say, I don't have a listing contract.
Okay.
As realtor, saying, I didn't,
But you need it for the office.
Do you?
If I list my personal house,
you're supposed to.
Okay.
That isn't the point that I was
you
making,
need it
though.
for the, you need it for the office.
Well, saying Buzzard is actually with the office. Fair, okay.
Rosie is videoing, so I won't tell you if I've always done a listing contract on properties that I own.
Just another question.
So, yeah. No, point I was making is that you can't be a realtor and not a realtor,
Yeah, that's fair.
basically.
Mark, do you think that would be a big advantage to the bigger companies like Carpenter and Tucker and stuff? If my board enforces the in-house,
The office exclusive.
seems like that would really give them a
It's-
huge leverage with their agents when they're talking.
If you wanted to latch onto a conspiracy theory,
Still recording,
The
everyone.
board might.
you could, let me give you an example though. In Indianapolis right now, FC Tucker is twice as big as any company in our market, but yet they still hold less than 20% market share in my market, okay? Compass, San Francisco, 60%. Berkshire Hathaway in Omaha, Nebraska, something like 55%. That seems like a really bad idea. If your company holds 60% of the market and you have the ability to market a property to 60% of the professionals when your competitor doesn't, I totally agree. In our market is, I'm not saying it doesn't come into play, but it's like bifurcated enough that I don't see that having a huge impact. But yeah, I mean, it was, there's one FC Tucker agent on the DLC policy committee, and we may have been giving him a hard time about this, yeah.
Is that one of those?
Yeah, because to the agents who know the stats, maybe not a big deal, but to buyers and sellers, the consumer, they wouldn't think
Yeah.
that was only 20%. Like, it looks way bigger than what it is, and so that could be a great marketing tool for
Yeah.
an agent to go and get listings with.
Yeah, there's an inconsistency to that in my mind.
That's what I
Like, you're
kinda
saying
like
you want it
that.
to be public information, but yet you're trying to respect the desired privacy of a seller, so you do this one exception. That feels a little bit odd, yeah.
Could you broad strokes speak to like what is considered marketing and what is like
Well done,
I mean, like-
Bill.
Bill, you are,
I can see the fine print.
Parking at my house.
He's gonna be our first fine.
this actually came up, verbally mentioning it. Think about it. Think about that. I don't disagree, that's why the policy, I think, is not a good idea. You're marketing the property. You are marketing the property. That's why, like, generally why, like, really restrictive rules are, but of like, wait a minute. But yeah, any effort to communicate about the property to the public, verbally mentioning it, certainly a sign in the yard. We even talked about the, like, could a flyer be in the window of your office if it was facing in, as opposed to out? But you would not be in control if you saw that. Yeah. Right. It is, I mean, I think a lot of that would get settled out, but right, the definition would be very strict. That you couldn't communicate about it. You could to your own clients, if the person that you were talking to was a buyer of yours. Think about that for a second. Yeah. If the office exclusive was allowed.
Oh.
Yeah.
So what if you're having a conversation with someone and they say, hey, what do you have? Do you have anything coming up that's new? Can you answer that?
You have to go.
I know. I mean, this is where I think local boards have a lot of work to do. And
Just tell them to go to our client's address and let them talk to them, and then we're just giving them an address from our friend's house.
I don't have anything, but you should go talk to my friend Steve.
Hey, you should go ask them. I don't know anything. You should go talk to them.
I think there is clarity that that would have to come about. Talked about what if you posted a picture of a property but didn't say the address or anything about it. Right. But all that stuff has to get clarified if this is really going to become the rule. Yeah. But you see why, like, that's communication that's going to be happening in between now and May. So if you see something about policy on clear cooperation from MIBOR or NAR, read it. Okay? Let's transition to something way more fun. Crystal's ready. Crystal's ready to trade.
I'm like, bring on Jess.
Yeah.
Yes.
I need something cuter and funner to talk about.
Yes.
Pretty sure Crystal just said she needs something cuter than me. So this is a really exciting day for the brokerage. The reason I wanted to have some time in person, there's nothing that we couldn't have communicated in writing. But I think there's something pretty meaningful to this. We're really excited about it. It has always been a goal of the company that as it grows, the access to resources that agents have certainly is not decreasing, and actually isn't staying the same. It's a value of mine that if the company is growing, I think the access to resources that the agents have ought to be growing as well. Not even just in some, I'm talking like per agent access to resources. Is the brokerage more and more and more able to help them succeed? So that's always our goal. We're never going to do that perfectly, but that's what our goal is to accomplish. As we've grown,